Right, in this video, I want to talk to you about the three biggest mistakes people make when starting out as a freelancer. And when I say people, I'm very guilty of these myself, so I'm talking through experience. I've learned the lessons of these mistakes and hopefully got on to improve and make better processes of how I operate. But these are three things that time and again come up when people start out freelancing and working self-employed. So the first thing is having this fallacy and thinking that you have to have everything in place before you can get started, that you have to have a fantastic website, maybe less so these days, but you have to have printed business cards and all these things for events. But almost an excuse to getting started by thinking that you have to have all these things in place, great social media profiles, certain following, all your processes established, all the tools invested, the subscriptions, everything else like that. Ultimately, you don't need any of those things. There's other videos on the channel where I've talked about how you can leverage your network to get going with your first clients, and that you need to just get started. And you can also do that while you're still employed if you want to work on the side and take it at a more safer model of getting going. But that is one of the biggest mistakes I see time and again, a big fallacy of thinking that you have to have everything perfectly ready before you can get started offering and providing your services. In many ways, that can be a waste of time, money, and effort, because until you get going, you don't necessarily know how best to go about those things. What do you need on your website? How is your website appealing best to your target audience? You maybe don't have a back catalogue of freelance work that you can actually place on the website. So one of the best things is just to get started. You'll learn so much more through that than even from anything I can pass on to you or any other person who has worked for themselves for a period of time. So get going is the first thing. Don't make excuses. Don't try and have everything in place. All your website design, processes, systems, subscriptions. Just get started. Put yourself out there, start delivering some services, and you'll learn and adapt and pivot. And of course, all those things do matter in time, particularly if you want to grow your business, depending on what your goals are. You will want to have your website, your social media profiles, and your processes in place to make your life a lot easier and to help increase the value and the consistency of the work that you're getting. So the first one is don't wait to get everything ready, just get started. The second thing is around the payment terms. Now, I made this mistake when I started. I was quite nervous about billing my clients, thinking, how should I do that? And how do I compare to other providers that they've had? Maybe I should give them extended payment terms. And I almost sometimes led them to tell me how they should pay me, which is quite frankly ridiculous, really. And actually, as I realized over time, most of the clients want you to tell them to be explicit about what your payment terms are. They understand that, whether they've worked with freelancers or self-employed people before, they have a variety of payment terms and they determine what they are. And experienced professionals will tell you that who work for themselves. So, for example, I believe for a new client, you should be taking some form of deposit. That could be 50% of the project, depending on what it is, or time, stage payments, but you should be taking some payment up front. Now, it was amazing to me when I stopped taking no payment up front and I was taking payment after the client received the services to go into deposits. I never had one complaint. Every single time I was getting a deposit in advance of starting some project work. Or getting retainers in advance. Now, sometimes you can set up an agreement where for a period of time you have that, and after you have the trust and consistency of someone paying on time, being a good payer, you can then transition to giving them some amount of payment terms. But again, make it small, make it 7 days, 14 days. Don't be giving small businesses 30 plus days for your time and effort that goes into projects. And like I say, no one will complain. People will pay according to your payment terms. And if they don't, they're probably not the sort of clients you want to be working with on a long-term basis anyway. So the big mistake I made it myself, is putting unfavorable payment terms out for yourself in advance, when in fact you really do not need to be doing that. You're just putting yourself at a significant disadvantage, particularly when you're starting out and you may have issues with cash flow. Don't make work even harder for you. And the final thing is recording your processes for those early days, those first few projects, those first few months of working with clients. Because what you end up doing, like I did, is that you give yourself a whole load more work by replicating from scratch everything again. So I create multiple reports from scratch. I create multiple documents. I create multiple processes. I create multiple campaigns or strategy plans, etc., right from scratch. Now, of course, you need to be given a bespoke, personalized service. You don't want to be selling something off the shelf unless that's your model, of course. But when we talk about bespoke client services, we want to be providing personal services personalized to that client in that particular project. However, even there may be many things that you've done multiple times before. Create templates. So record what you're doing, create templates. You can use perhaps 80% of that, and then you add on the 20%, which is personalized to the client. Now, ultimately, they should actually appreciate that as well, because you're then saving that time so you can focus your effort on the bit that makes it special for them in their business, the particular project you're doing. You're not wasting time on going through some of the basic fundamentals, where actually you're a much higher value add than doing that. So record the process for your first few projects, so that when you come to your next batch, you can say, okay, well, I've done this already. I can take that from that project and I can use it again. Or this report, I can take that template of that report and then just adapt it with the data relevant for that period of time or that project or whatever it might be. So just to recap, don't wait to get everything ready. Just get started. You'll learn so much more by doing that. Put the payment terms in your favor when you start out freelancing and working for yourself, and ensure to record the process of your first few projects to make your life a lot easier when you come into the next round of projects as well. All the best with starting out on your self-employed freelance journey.